Great. So we are at 11. So we are recording this. So for anyone who is watching live, make sure you let everybody know that this is being recorded and we will share it out on our YouTube and on the core LMS. So I will get started. So hello, welcome everybody. I'm Casey Dodder, Director of Leadership Advancement for Phi Sigma Pi. Very happy that Leadership in Action can bring these webinars to you all. That we are doing this online classroom series to kind of make sure everyone feels as prepared as they can be while working and doing class from home. And today we are going to be talking about we're going to be doing digital communication from between students and faculty, staff, advisors, etc. And I am thrilled to have Charlin Jones-Chávez, our host for today. She is the Epsilon Mu faculty advisor and honorary member. She's also on the foundation board and most recently has become a doctor. So very exciting. Congratulations to you on that. And we also have Emma Israel, our chapter consultant on, and she'll be here to answer any questions that anyone may have at the end. So I will turn it over to you, Charlin.
Awesome. I know you're going to forward the slides for me, correct?
Correct.
Okay, we can go ahead to the first one. So once again, Charlin Jones-Chávez. You don't have to call me doctor. That's a little weird for me still. But excited to share about how to still communicate with your faculty or your staff and your advisors of your organizations, whether it's Phi Sigma Pi or any other organization. And one of the first and probably most important things to remember is how to get in touch with faculty and staff. Please enjoy all my memes. There's one for every slide. And for all my Star Wars fans, I couldn't pass up having Yoda today. But the first thing to remember is the people around you need to know how to support you in terms of being able to stay connected, not only with your faculty and staff, but just with your brothers, with other students, with members of your family, your friends, all of that. So making sure your support system understands what your goals are in terms of being successful during this virtual process that we're all living in today. The other thing to remember is, as students, it's important for you to initiate contact with faculty or staff. We're still working, so it's not like we're just hanging out, have a whole lot of time to constantly check in on students, even though we're trying to do that as much as we can. It's okay to reach out to us first. That can be through email, that can be through video chats like this, whatever is the most comfortable to initiate that contact with us. Don't hesitate to ask questions. We all have questions. I'm asking questions all the time because most of us are not used to working in this kind of environment. So be sure to ask those questions as they come up for you. And express any concerns that you're having. I have a daily huddle with my team, and so we get to sort of share out like good and bad, what's going on, if we have any concerns on how to do our work, how to communicate with each other. Don't keep those bottled up, and make sure you share those out with the people that you need to reach out to. So we'll go on to the next slide. And since we're having to work virtually, we're probably relying on email a whole lot more than we used to. I know on our campus, we hear the term all the time, or the statement, oh, students never read their email. Well, I bet they are now. They weren't before. And so making sure that when you're communicating via email, you want to be really cognizant of how you're communicating via email. This is not like text messaging. This is not GroupMe. This is a much more formal communication process. So you want to make sure any email that you send to faculty or staff, you have a strong subject line. Like, don't just send me hi or question. Give me a basis for what we're going to talk about. Make sure that you're providing complete information, especially when you're communicating with your faculty, because they're now all having to communicate with you virtually as well. So you want to make sure you're giving your instructors your full name, and that being the name that appears in your learning management system that you're working in. I know every institution is using different forms. You might go by a nickname. I have an intern who goes by Johnny, but his name's Jonathan. Fun fact, his name's Jonathan Moreno, so everybody will get that. But make sure you include both of those things. And then if you're emailing about a specific class that you're in, be sure to include your course name or number for your faculty member, because if they're teaching 3 or 4 different classes, they may not realize which one you're talking about initially in your email. And this will help ensure you get a faster response time from faculty especially. Additionally, make sure you use short and easy paragraphs. This is not a time to write a novel. If you need more in-depth communication about something, then you'll want to reach out through video or through a phone call to do that. And then the other piece is be direct and to the point. You know, you don't want to have a conversation in an email about this particular course and then you veer off topic. Stay on topic, stay to the point that you're communicating about. Please, please, please be sure to spell check and reread before you send your email. This is always important. You're doing that for any kind of coursework when you're submitting papers or things of that nature. So you want to make sure you're doing the same thing for your communication to your faculty and staff. And then don't hesitate to reach out for different forms of communication. Like I said, you can also ask to have phone conversations with faculty or staff. We're available to do that. If you want to do video conferencing, definitely reach out about that. If you just need quick conversation or quick answers and you have established a good working relationship, maybe you can do it through text message or some kind of chat application, but those should be reserved for minimal communication with your faculty and staff, because we're also being tasked to communicate with our colleagues across the institution, as well as, you know, virtually outside of our institution. Let's see. And make sure that you're communicating within your learning management systems that you work in, because that's a great place for faculty to be able to address additional student-related things that they can't necessarily talk about on the phone or whatnot. In terms of submitting coursework or other information, make sure you're carving out your schedule and be present. I know David in our first webinar really went over kind of how to work in the online classroom environment, but this is still important when you're communicating about things for your organization, or maybe you're trying to communicate to an academic advisor. If you've set time and asked for a meeting or a phone call, make sure you're present and you've added that to your schedule appropriately. Because we're all still having to manage our time as well with all the other things that we're doing. Don't hesitate to share any personal experiences that you're having. I was talking with another advisor for a different organization this morning about some student leadership concerns, and so being able to share those experiences and talk about them and being open and honest and genuine will help us all continue to work together effectively in this virtual world. Be sure to be considerate and appropriate in how you're communicating. This, you know, still stands even though we're in a virtual world. And when you're working on your coursework, don't forget to provide those references especially. I've even got some references on this PowerPoint because I can't claim all of this to be my own. And then avoid using slang or sarcasm because it can be easily misunderstood, especially if it's only through a text format like email or discussion board. You want to make sure everybody is on the same page. And then you also want to avoid flaming. And this is where you're like flying off the handle or ranting. It's the equivalent to having a temper tantrum, and it's considered inappropriate behavior. So instead, carefully craft a response that expresses your thoughts assertively as opposed to aggressively. And if you find something that strikes you as upsetting or unacceptable, contact your faculty immediately. This is really important, especially in those discussion board spaces that I know a lot of students are having to work in now. And then if we can go to the next slide, just some reminders, FERPA still stands. So faculty are not able to address any questions about your grades or academic progress through email because that is not considered secure. So if you do have questions about grades, coursework questions, you want to do that through your learning management system. They typically have a chat function in there and you can ask those questions through that process. Don't do that through your email account. And be patient with us, all of us. That includes your fellow students. This is new for almost 90% of us, as we don't live in this space every day, all the time. And so understand that faculty and staff who don't necessarily respond to you right away, especially via email, it could be that they may not be very tech savvy, because a lot of folks are having to learn how to do this because they've never done it before. They may also have an overwhelming number of messages and emails now that all of their classes are being conducted online versus before. And all of us may be trying to take care of kids as well. We no longer have a separate home and work life, so our families are with us most of the day, especially children. Some of us have fur kids like me. So make sure that you're understanding of the situation that your faculty and staff are in as well. If you haven't gotten a response from faculty or staff within 24 hours, then you can ping them again with a gentle nudge like, hey, I sent this email a day ago. I haven't heard from you, so don't hesitate to do that. This is a really trying time, and we're all managing our stress and emotions. So if you get into a situation where you feel like you're falling behind, it's okay to ask for an extension as needed. Now, this doesn't mean that everything gets to become an extension because we're working virtually, but if you feel overwhelmed with your coursework, definitely reach out to your faculty to ask for maybe a little bit additional time so you can catch up. Almost all of our faculty are ready to help our students in any way that they need. And again, as a reminder, request those phone calls or video calls, especially if they can't follow up with an email. Sometimes it's easier to talk through it face-to-face or even on the phone versus trying to write out a response email. So know that we're available to have those conversations as well. Always be honest. We want to be here to help you be successful as students and as student leaders. So let us know what's going on and how we can help you out. And just as a reminder, we're all in this together. We're all learning together, and we want to ensure that we are being supportive of one another. And know that you still have each other to rely on during this time. So hopefully our chapters are still meeting. I know Epsilon Mu chapter is meeting regularly, even though it's in this new virtual space that we're in. But be sure to rely on each other during this time as much as possible. I pulled some of this information from these two resources, so definitely check them out. They're quick documents to read through. And special thanks to Dr. Mary Dixon at UTSA. She's a distinguished lecturer, senior lecturer of communication. And so, like I said, she does this almost all the time for almost all of her classes. So she was a great resource for me to reach out to help provide some appropriate communication resources for you. So that's what I have today. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, thank you so much, Charlin. And as we're waiting for some questions, I didn't know if Emma wanted to give some tips about communicating with staff and their consultants and how the chapters can be communicating with one another.
I would say just in general, don't hesitate to reach out if you have a question. If you think your question might be dumb or, irrelevant or redundant, please don't hesitate. We get a lot of questions and we're really just here to help you no matter what. Very similar to what Charlene was saying, like, don't be afraid to request a phone call or a video call. I know me personally, if a student asks me a question or a member asks me a question, I love just hopping on a video call. One, because we're in a quarantine, so I love some good human interaction. And two, it's just so much easier to, get my message across or answer any questions, follow-up questions, whatever. And maybe even touch on points that we wouldn't have gotten to if it was just via email. So I think that just in general, really don't hesitate to reach out and know that we would love to schedule a video call just to really, really help you guys out with anything. And also to echo that we are all learning. All of this is so new. None of us have the answers to any of this, and we're all figuring it out together. So we like learning from you guys and we like learning from each other. So those are definitely my takeaways from this whole situation.
Great.
Absolutely. And, sticking with the schedule, I still have a scheduled one-on-one meeting with our chapter president every week. It's on Fridays typically. I might have to move the time frame around, but we still connect. And we do host a video chat with one another. I've gone to the last two executive board meetings that they've had just to be a resource to the students. So, and they're sticking to that schedule as well. So I think that's the most important part to remember, is this isn't a time to just kind of check out and veg out. This is really a time for us to continue to come together and work together.
Definitely. And as Emma said, all of us here at the National Staff, we're all still working just from our respective homes. So definitely reach out, and a phone call and a video call, as she said, really can really expand. I know when I'm talking to somebody, ideas pop up. They think, something else comes up. I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that. So don't hesitate to just email us and then say, but I think this conversation would do better if we could set up a phone or a video call. So
absolutely. I see some of Epsilon Mu is here today because they're chatting at us.
So yes, well, thank you, everyone. If we don't have any other questions right now, that's fine. As we said, if you have any questions about digital communication, communicating with one another, your advisors, your staff, or your faculty, please just, send us an email. We'll be happy to help you work through that. We'll be putting this webinar, as I said, on our YouTube channel, on Facebook, and on our LMS, and we'll be linking it in the virtual communications doc. Oh, it looks like we did get a question from Michaela. Wonderful. She said, how do you suggest working with future grad programs right now?
So I have a question to your question. Are you applying, and how are you navigating that process? Is that what this question is related to? Just accepted. Background. Okay, yeah. I know a lot of our institutions are having to make adjustments even for admissions for both undergraduate and graduate programs. So don't hesitate to reach out to those graduate schools that you've been accepted to so that you can get questions answered. Like, I know for UTSA specifically, our graduate school staff is virtual as well, so they are always available when students have questions in relation to their application and admission process. So understand they're working through a lot of problems. Yeah, they're facing all the same issues we are. So it's awesome that you've already been accepted, and I think now it's just them trying to figure out how to kind of process through all of that. So kind of like before, don't hesitate to send an email. If you don't get a response, ping them again. And then if they're offering any kind of one-on-one time on their websites to be able to connect with them virtually, take advantage of those.
Great. Well, thank you. If we don't have, that was a great question. Thank you, Michaela. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to email us, chat with us. This will be posted everywhere and in our virtual communications doc. If you haven't had a chance to look at that, make sure you go over to CORE and you click on the resources tab, and there is a page for our virtual communications. It's a live document that we are updating, I think, pretty much every day. There is definitely new resources and tools coming in that we want to share with all of you. So make sure you are checking that out and sharing it with your chapter. So just want to,
yeah. And if anybody wants to connect with me directly, I am available as well. So don't hesitate. Kind of like David offered in his, I'm a faculty advisor to Epsilon U, but I serve as an advisor to Phi Sigma Pi in general. So if you have questions and you want to reach out to me directly, feel free to do so. My email is on the first slide of the presentation, and then we can always connect via Zoom or however you'd like to.
And you can also connect with Charlin on CORE, so don't forget about that.
This is true. I will own that I'm not necessarily good about using CORE. That's probably the worst thing I could say in this presentation, but I will get better at it if you ping me on there. I promise.
Yes.
You get all the notifications.
Yes, at least message her and then you can find your way to email. That's normally how I communicate as well through CORE. Get my first initial contact through there.
Absolutely.
Start communicating with them, make some good connections, and then sometimes we transfer over to email. So great. Yeah. Thank you so much again to Charlin for taking the time out of your day to present this for us and for working on this, and for Emma for popping in and giving some great advice to our chapters. It's been wonderful having both of you. I wish everyone the best who's on our call, everyone who's watching this. Stay safe. Think of some fun things to do. I know it's been rough, but we'll get through it, everybody. We're all, like Charlin said, we're all in this together, and we'll come out on the other side sooner rather than later. So
absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing you all soon, and we will talk to you all later. Bye.